How's it going, guys? It's been a while. I have been MIA for quite a bit. Sorry about the wait. I haven't been able to catch my C's recently, and I've just been slacking off. But I decided to go live and discuss this important topic. I've been watching videos left and right. I've been seeing different crowd reactions online and in real time through other channels. And I want to just say that it is unfortunate that people are just spurging out at their big ages, and you don't even see a crumb of remorse, not even a morsel. I feel speechless when I see people being unable to just call a thing for what it is. It's right or wrong, and it's always something, regardless what part of the aisle you're in. Some people make it about themselves too much, and they don't focus on who's the real victim, which is Austin. A lot of people have a lot of different reactions, and I've saw this case unfolding when it first happened last year. I saw the people and I saw the comments. I thought a year later we would see a different type of reaction. And to my dismay, we're still seeing people basically co-signing bad behavior. And we're trying. We're trying our hardest to justify the means. Why Carmelo apparently deserved to do this to Austin. There are people who are really going out of their way to say that Austin deserved it. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm the type of person where I'll call it as I see it. I'm not going to care about your skin color when I'm more inclined to call you out for what is right or wrong, not the skin color. None of that should matter when someone loses their life. And I would say the same regardless if Austin's white, regardless if Austin's black. I don't put emphasis on skin color because for me, I see people as people. But there are people who take their identities very seriously to the point where it's almost as if you have to avoid people. And I'm talking about people, whether it's people of color, people of a different sexual orientation, or people of a different sex. It just seems that we're so focused on buzzwords. We're focused on calling something homophobic, calling something racist, calling something misogynist. And when you really add it all up, the situation isn't nowhere near what people claim. So now people just throw the word racist, they throw the word homophobic, or they throw the word um, misogynist just to guilt trip you anytime you just try to hold people accountable when they say something wrong or they do something wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, how did we get to this breaking point where this is common? When did this become common behavior where we just say, you know what, I don't like your response, so I'm just say you're homophobic. You know what, I don't like your response, so I'll say you're racist. You know what, I don't like your response, so you're a misogynist. And I'm thinking, these people are bots, they are low IQ, calling something for what it is, unless it's through like harsh language, it's not racist, it's not homophobic, it's not misogynist. And the problem is these words are important. And now that people are frequently using them every single time they don't get their way or their say, what they end up doing is essentially they're devaluing these words. They're taking away the meaning. And the problem is people who really suffer from actual abuse, such as homophobia, such as racism or misogyny, eventually, because there are entitled people out there using these words frequently, it's going to create a sense of fatigue where the compassion is going to go completely out the window. And people are just going to act erratic, and they're not going to care if if they use words. Eventually people are just going to start using the N word. People are going to start using the what is it, the F slur word. People are going to eventually start mistreating women because of these people who go on the internet and they make a spectacle out of nothing. Because this is this isn't the time to be trying to change this, like, what is it, flip the script and change the narrative, because it's not Austin who is alive as the time of the recording of this video. It's Carmelo. Carmelo's alive, and I feel bad for Carmelo, because as much as I can sit here and blame Carmelo for his actions, I think the biggest culprits behind Carmelo's actions is none other than his parents. I fully believe that his parents, as many modern day parents, not all parents, but a lot of modern day parents, they think that they're teaching their kids right from wrong. And the reality is they're not. A lot of modern day parents have taken this, what is it, the soft parent approach. And in some cases, it's inevitable because both parents are busy trying to make ends meet. But a lot of the time, the parents, they don't care. They rather be friends with their kids than actually tell their kids when they messed up. And this is creating an environment where kids don't see right from wrong. In fact, they're doing the opposite. Anytime they do something wrong in their minds, they think they're doing something right. And when you don't agree with them, then they see you as the wrong doer. And that's a problem, because now everything is up and down and all over the place. People's logic is all over the place. And in Carmelo's mind, when he committed this um, murder against Austin Metcalf, and in his mind, he thought he was entitled to do as he pleased because he had no shame. He felt he could get away with it. And it didn't even have to be Austin. It could have been anybody. But the problem is, because it was Austin, everyone wants to say that Austin pushed him into committing this crime. And I'm just thinking, there are people who get a lesser sentence than Carmelo. Carmelo got a pretty hefty sentence. Maybe he should have gotten 25 years if you want to make that argument. But the bottom line is, there are some people saying that he should have just walked away free. There are grown adults on this platform saying that Austin pushed Carmelo into committing this murder. And I'm just thinking to myself, how did we get to this point where we become so delusional that we entertain these thoughts? I would never say flat out from my own mouth that that Austin pushed Carmelo into doing this crime, regardless of my skin color. I would see it as this was a moment of weakness. This was a moment where Carmelo was not thinking straight. This was a kid with a troubled history, and a lot of people were overlooking it, including his parents. And based on what I've seen from his parents, the recent interview that they did through CBS, they are blaming everyone, and they're throwing anyone under the bus except themselves. These people raised Carmelo into the man he is today, and they have the audacity to blame the jury. They have the audacity um, to blame their legal defense. They have the audacity to blame anyone except themselves. And of course, they have every right as parents to be upset because no parent should ever want to go through this experience. But the problem is these people are using this situation with Carmelo and Austin for other purposes, which is to pity them. And what they're doing is they're making the racial divide that's going on even worse. And I'm not strictly blaming it on them, but when they constantly keep doing these interviews and they keep saying, oh my God, like Carmelo was defending himself, you can't claim self defense when Carmelo didn't leave with a bruise. Austin never had a weapon. He never wailed a weapon in front of Carmelo. He never physically put Carmelo in a position where his life was in danger. He wasn't choking him. He wasn't doing anything. So the fact that we jump to conclusions and we say to everyone and people in their, I don't know how old, in their 40s and their 50s, saying, you know what? This white kid had so much influence over Carmelo that he actually pushed Carmelo into committing this crime. And I've seen rumors. I've seen the rumors. A lot of people say that uh, that Austin knew Carmelo, that Austin and his brother bullied Carmelo for a long time, and it was just a matter of time before Carmelo got his lick back. But the problem is, what type of lick back is that? Because it's not a one-to-one situation. It's not like they pushed each other and then they both started to use their fists against each other. This was a situation where even if, let's say, Carmelo did nudge, um, well, sorry, even if Austin nudged Carmelo, you can't be inside a tent, which, by the way, if you don't know, Carmelo, he had been suspended prior for bringing a knife into his school, from what I remember reading. And he was banned. I don't know in how long, if it was a permanent ban, a temporary ban, but he was suspended from attending these events because he was suspended for wielding a knife. And this was all before the crime that took place between him and Austin. This was before there he was actually suspended. So these people are not taking facts into considerations. They are just basically going off anecdotes they create in their minds and they're passing it off as facts. And the facts are that you can't claim that this was purely based on race. This was never about race. This was about a kid who was troubled. And it sickens me that there are people who are siding with Carmelo to the point where they're just willing to say, uh, Austin was this white boogeyman that scared Carmelo into committing murder. And I'm just left thinking to myself, how did we get to this breaking point? That I doubt Austin had that much influence on Carmelo. And in fact, Carmelo was not supposed to be under the tent. And I've seen a lot of people basically claim that, oh my God, it was raining outside. Why couldn't Carmelo go inside the tent, etc.? And that's because, first of all, that wasn't even his school. Okay. He went to Centennial High School. Okay. It was in it was in Frisco. Both schools were in Frisco, but they were rival schools. And He went to the rival school. That wasn't his school. That wasn't his tent. And I don't know why people are trying to obfuscate facts in order to push a narrative that's completely false. They just wanted to say that Austin was just this big racist that had a bone to pick with Carmelo, and they're pushing the racist angle to justify Carmelo's actions against Austin that day. And even if Austin was wrong, Austin could have had a, depending on the state, right? In some state, it is a hate crime to use the N word or to be abusive towards people of color. Okay, fair enough. But to call a situation and turn it into a crime that was just based on racism is it boggles my mind. It leaves me completely speechless. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not here to say that you have to agree with everything that took place that day. Maybe uh, everyone failed that day to an extent, right? The coach who left the tent, uh, the way that Austin reacted, okay. But the bottom line is Carmelo was wrong for inciting and escalating the situation by telling people, touch me and see what happens. That to me isn't a conversation of someone who's willing to be reasonable. That is a conversation that someone incites when they think they can get away with murder. And I think Carmelo really thought in his mind that the consequences didn't apply to him. And unfortunately, I believe he adopted this mindset because just as Carmelo, there are a lot of kids, no matter the skin color, who think that they are above the law. And especially at that young age, they really believe the hype. They hype themselves and they believe their own hype. And then that hype comes crashing down when they end up having to serve 35 years behind bars. And honestly, they just want to say anything, especially Carmelo's parents and the people who are of the same color as Carmelo. They want to say that the jury was white. No, the jury wasn't all white. There were Hispanics, there were uh, Asians, and there were at least three, if I remember correctly, three black jurors. And the reason why they weren't taken into account once they had to give their verdict is because they didn't want to send Carmelo to jail. And that automatically isn't good because one of them said out of their mouth, I can't put one of my own behind bars. More or less, that's what was said in verbatim. So I don't know how people believe that Carmelo's entitled to an all black jury if given the case, given the situation at hand, the chances are that all of them, if the majority, I'm going to say over 50% of that jury would most likely say, I can't send Carmelo to jail. And it's because of the way the media has also made such a big fuss over this case. They have really planted the seeds of division, and people are just falling for it hook, line, and sinker, believing everything the media says, and also believing anyone who posts about this situation on different platforms just to create a ruckus by lying through their teeth and creating rumors or editing certain events to make people consider that Carmelo was just completely innocent and would never harm Austin. And the facts are there. I don't know how people keep arguing against the facts. Carmelo can't claim defense, and anyone who claims self defense on behalf of Carmelo is insane because to me, self-defense is if Austin put Carmelo's life in danger. If Austin, let's say, was just, I don't know, choking him, and Carmelo had no choice but to grab the weapon that he used against Austin, that's different. But there was no signs of foul play from Austin that would endanger Carmelo to grab the whatever what it was, the pocket knife, whatever type of weapon he used against him that day. There was just no excuse for it. And yet we're still here trying to defend it. And I'm just thinking to myself, at some point there's something that we gotta give here. We just want to ignore facts and insert our bias as facts. I'm not here to say that you should that condemning Carmelo or anything of that nature is necessary, right? To put the kid down further and further and further. Because in fact, if anyone deserves to be put down, like in terms of, like condemned for their actions here, is none other than Carmelo's parents, who basically, in my opinion, I believe they enabled this kid. They never held him responsible for his actions. And we can see that based on the CBS footage where Carmelo Anthony's mom basically says, "Oh, my son was simply, um, he was just defending himself." And I'm just thinking, you could be in denial all day, but there was no reason why he had to take Austin's life. There was never any foul play. And we're just trying to, um, what is it? We're trying to divert the truth by sugarcoating and sprinkling it with lies. Carmelo's life was never in danger. He was told even before he went inside the tent that he needed to get out of school grounds. And did Carmelo listen? No. Carmelo still went inside the tent, and even after being pursued by everyone from the tent, mainly Austin, he refused. He said, "Come get me, touch me, and see what happens." That to me isn't someone who came there just to hide under a tent to avoid all the rain. That is a person who clearly was at the end of his rope. He felt the pressure of life hitting him, and in a moment of weakness, he reacted, and unfortunately it ended with Austin being the victim and paying the price for whatever was happening to Carmelo that day. And it just sickens me that people can't call it for what it is. It's always, well, if you say something that I don't like and I disagree with you, then you're racist. Even if you don't use the N word, even if you don't say anything that asinine about Carmelo, you're automatically labeled a racist. I'm just like, I don't know how we got here. I don't know how we can defend this and just, how can we defend this and we just allow it? How is this even allowed? And there's more that I'm going to share about this Carmelo situation. Uh, there's a lot more that I have to share. What really sickened me at most is there was a person, right? There were several people. And one of the people that really shocked me was Jasmine Crockett. I don't know if I said her name correctly. Uh, this lady, I don't know. I believe she's a lawyer. I don't know what's her exact position, right? But she said that that Carmelo deserves leniency because look at this. Look how people reach for excuses. She said this was the holy copes of all copes. She said out of her mouth that the weapon that Carmelo used on Austin wasn't long enough. Like she was like mocking the fact that it was 2 to 3 inches. And apparently, it's like, okay, so even if it was 1 inch, who cares? It took the life of a kid from their parents, and you're just focusing on how long the blade is. Like, what are we doing here? Then, on top of that, look at her excuse. She said she never thought, she thinks that Carmelo never meant to actually take Austin's life. I'm sorry, you're using any sort of weapon and you're thrusting it at someone, chances are it's either taking someone's life or self-defense. And in this case, since Austin wasn't doing anything that would warrant Carmelo pulling that knife, I'm going to go on a limb and say that Carmelo didn't really care about who was in his way. He just wanted to make an example out of someone for the wrong reasons. But Jasmine Crockett basically says that the weapon wasn't long enough, or that, and also she mentions that Carmelo only apparently just stabbed him once, and that was it. And it's like, okay, even if the weapon was 2, 3 inches, even if he stabbed him once, what is the point here? And she says, well, if he stabbed him two, three, four, five, six different times, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, you are really reaching the bottom of the barrel for any sort of excuses to exonerate Carmelo. But I guess in y'all's words, you think it's like fuck Austin, right? Austin doesn't deserve any grace. Austin doesn't deserve any pity. All of it should just strictly go to Carmelo, and it's ridiculous because Carmelo admitted to everyone, the police officer, "Hey, I did this. I committed it." Even though he said that he felt triggered, he admitted it. And everyone else around him, the grown folks, they're just saying, "Oh, he never meant to do it." Or, "Oh, Austin, the big bad boogeyman who's white pushed Carmelo to do it." And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is this? Like, why are we being so unreasonable? We are grown and this is our train of thought. No wonder society is going down the drain. It's like trying to fit a square into a triangle. Like you can't fit a square into a triangle because it doesn't fit, just as all this mumbo jumbo doesn't add up because it's completely devoid of common sense and logic. All it has going for it is just a ton of bias that doesn't add up when you try to outline every excuse that you're trying to use to paint Carmelo as a victim. In this case, he just wasn't a victim. Now, I may not know the full situation with the Derek Chow, where he took the life of that, from what I can remember, allegedly, he took the life of that 14-year-old. Derek Chow could have handled that a lot differently. Instead of chasing that his son, Derek Chow's son, I believe, chasing the 14-year-old along with Derek Chow, that could have been handled completely different. But this case is pretty clear cut. And I'm just surprised that people are just trying to find any reason to vilify Austin as if Austin had done anything to warrant this type of crime. And all I'm seeing is people trying to reward thug behavior and classify it as someone being a Samaritan. I'm thinking, you, in what world is this okay? And that is, and between um the media and people such as Austin's family, and not Austin, Carmelo Anthony's family, and all of this, all they're doing is literally widening the gap between white folks and black folks, unnecessarily, might I add. But on top of it, we saw what happened, and I saw before Carmelo was sentenced to 35 years behind prison. I saw the Colin, what is it? Colin, I'm not even pronouncing it correctly. The Colin, courthouse. They were all gathered there, and we saw a black man getting arrested because he was jumping and hysterically jumping on top. He thought he was Crash or something. He was just jumping in front of a in front of an old man, white male, in front of an old white male, just jumping in front of him, getting aggressive, getting disrespectful, getting crunk. And I said to myself, why is this man jumping in front of this old man? Like, why is this even being done in the first place? And it just it just shocks me. It just shocks me that this is how people think, this is how people feel, this is how people react, and we're not using common sense anymore. In fact, I think we're just letting AI do the common sense for us, because this is this is how we think, folks. We just quickly believe everything. We don't even leave any room for the imagination anymore. We don't leave any room for the imagination. And this is why we're in the situation we're in. And it's unfortunate. I don't wish this happened to Carmelo. Carmelo's a young man. He shouldn't have gone to prison, but then again, he is a byproduct of who raised him at home. And from what I'm seeing, it's two parents who really just said, you know what, son, you're fine. There's nothing you can make me say or do to call you out, because Carmelo was their perfect little angel. And because he was their perfect little angel, they thought Carmelo should never be called out whenever he misbehaves. And at some point, when that happens, you grow into thinking that you can do as you please and you can get away with your actions with no consequence. There was a lady in front of the Collin County Courthouse saying that that Austin's brother, Hunter, should have joined Austin that day. So basically, what she's saying is Austin passed away. And what she's saying is her Austin's twin brother should have joined him that day. That's basically what she said, word for word. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what in the world are we saying? And then we always want to turn this about race. But the reality is, we're basically saying through Carmelo Anthony's actions against Austin Metcalf is that Austin Metcalf is white and apparently his life doesn't matter. That's basically what these people are saying. They're not implying it word for word, right? They're doing a roundabout way of saying how they feel about Austin. But basically, Austin's life doesn't matter because he's white. And that's how people feel. Not all, right? I'm talking about the people who have insane takes about the whole situation. They're lying through their teeth. They're saying that Austin was completely at fault for everything that happened, including his own death. And when you ask them to provide context, they make every excuse, every evidence that was proven, like the fact that it was raining. They're gonna say, you know what? Carmelo was just running for cover. He was hiding in the shelter, and he had every right to be there. Even though that wasn't his school, even though that wasn't his team, the rain is an excuse for why Carmelo had every right to be under the tent, even though faculty told him to go. The biggest mistake, of course, is the coach leaving, because he put Austin in charge, and as a result, all of this happened. And maybe if the coach was there, there would have been enough intervention. But that's really all I have to share. And I'm obviously going to talk about more cases, including a situation that happened recently, a very racist situation that happened recently. And I'm going to call that out too. But I wanted to just share this quick little video that I've been unable to complete sooner. I decided to just do it today before I completely skipped over it. But we're going to talk more about this soft parenting BS that's happening. We're going to talk about a racist man who took his aggression against a black person. And we're gonna keep talking more about this Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf situation because there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack. But I don't want to unpack it all at once. So, with that being said, I'll let you guys go. If you can please like the video and help me on the algorithm, I appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm going to let you guys go and you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.